I want to welcome and thank you all, everyone, for being here. I'm Carrie Butler, TARC's Executive Director, and we're just thrilled to be here at this ribbon cutting for our new buses. And we wouldn't be here, and we want to celebrate and thank everyone who helped us get here today, with the support of many, many others in the community. We have local funds made available to us through the Volkswagen settlement, $4.7 million, which allowed us to access a federal award of $17.3 million, equaling a total of $22 million, which then allowed us to purchase 47 total new buses, and we have 15 here today. They will begin service shortly after this press conference wraps up, so we're excited to get them on the road. It helps address one of our most pressing needs to replace our aging fleet. So these buses will replace some of the oldest vehicles in our fleet, reducing maintenance cost, improving air quality, and improving reliability for our riders. So with that, I am honored to introduce our first speaker, someone who has a great history of working with TARC and was instrumental in getting these funds and getting these buses to us. So without further ado, the Honorable Governor Andy Beshear.
Good morning, everybody. What a great, even if it's a little bit rainy, morning in the Commonwealth. You know, there's a lot of parts of our country that would really like the amount of rain we get, so we're going to try to enjoy it as best we can. It is great to be back here today, continuing in partnership with TARC, a great community member and partner. I've been honored to work with TARC from everything from addressing and reporting human trafficking to our announcement here today. Each and every time that we have reached out, whether I was Attorney General or Governor, TARC has answered the call, recognizing that their drivers, their employees see more people in the community every day, that they have a stake in what's going on, and they're always looking to do the right thing. This is a special organization filled with special people. And it is great to be in Louisville this morning. This is a city I love that I called home for 15 years until I moved into the current place I'm living. But it is so good to see this city continuing to look for new ways to move forward. And today, we're celebrating our transportation infrastructure getting a little greener and a little cleaner. You know, it's good to be able to be out on a day like today feeling like we do, because we felt very different emotions the last 15 months than we do today. In the last 15 months, we felt a lot of grief. We've lost 7,200 Kentuckians since the beginning of COVID. Those are people we love that are irreplaceable children of God, and we're still processing that grief. Some of their memorials are still going on. We felt stress. I got to talk to a few of y'all about that and the difficult times for our health, for the health of our families, for our children and their well-being. I know I had to learn 5th and 6th grade math all at the same time in the midst of distance learning, and everybody else faced that stress of what is the future going to bring. But today, I'm feeling very different emotions as we truly come out of this. First, I'm feeling hope. I'm feeling hope because just 16 months after our first case, we have 3 highly effective vaccines, and half of all Kentuckians are now vaccinated. I think that's pretty incredible. And in dark times, it's easy to see the downside, but I got to tell you, I feel blessed. I feel blessed not just that we got these 3 vaccines faster than at any time in human history, but look at how effective they are. You know, we call them a modern medical miracle, and I'll give the scientists the fact that they created them faster than ever before. But how effective they are, I believe, is a miracle from God. Over 90 to 95% effective versus just about everything we've seen. In the last month, 99.7% of all cases among unvaccinated individuals, and we have learned recently that if you get 2 shots of the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine, it is 88% effective against the Delta variant, now the most aggressive variant we have seen to date. So, with these vaccines, we know we have a path forward. It's one of the reasons we can be here today the way we are, but let's know we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of people out there that need help, and I want to thank TARC, and I want to thank everybody that works here for the work you have done in getting people to their vaccinations. Just think about it, how critical this infrastructure has been during this pandemic. You help people vote at a time that it was more difficult. You help people get to their jobs at a time that it was more dangerous. And you help people get that life-saving shot that now has us out and about and on a path to normalcy. You have been such a critical part of our response to this pandemic. And now, we're looking towards the future. The future of TARC with cleaner transportation options that I think everybody is excited about. And for me, this is a little bit coming full circle. One of the first major lawsuits I filed as Attorney General of the Commonwealth was against Volkswagen. Volkswagen had created a cheat device. They had claimed that the cars that they had were some of the greenest on the road, and they weren't. They just created a computer chip that would tell you that when you tested them, when really they hadn't done anything else. As part of that settlement, we ended up with about $20 million coming to the Commonwealth that we were able to do good things for, as well as dollars that have helped fund this program. And I remember as Attorney General wanting so badly to be a part of this allocation, knowing what it was going to do for our communities. And at that time being told by the governor's administration that I was not welcome in those decision-making processes. Well, the decisions didn't get made until after I won that next election. And so I'm really glad to be here today to see that work come full circle and to see what's sitting behind us. But I also want to thank the innovation of TARC, of the Mayor's Office, of the Transportation Cabinet, of being able to take these dollars, of the General Assembly allocating these dollars in the budget to this cause, and being able to take that and bring in extra funds to make this program so much bigger than any one person's efforts. And let me tell you, what's behind us is a part of the future. We're seeing our automotive industry change at an almost alarming rate, where some manufacturers are saying in 15 years the only vehicles they're going to manufacture are electric vehicles. These companies, when they're looking at the next generation of jobs and where they're going to place them, are looking at cities and areas and seeing what we are doing to drive the future, what our public transportation looks like, the number of charging stations that we have out there. So I'm excited today that Louisville is ahead of the curve and is giving us an extra tool that we can talk about as we try to create the economy of the future. The exciting thing about that economy is it's starting to be created right now. I know the last 15 months have been times of great difficulty. They have. But I believe that the next 5 years can be a time of great prosperity. And we are already seeing signs that the next several years will be the best economically, I believe, in my lifetime. It started with some news about what we did during the pandemic, all of us trying to gut it out, and us on the job creation side doing the same. This group called Site Selection Magazine, they ranked Kentucky #1 in economic development in our region in 2020, even in the midst of a pandemic. #1 of any state under 5 million people. We might be smaller, but we are mighty. #7 per capita overall in the United States, but take that away and just put us up against everybody else. Big boys and girls in New York or Texas or Florida, whatever they call it. We were #7 overall in this country. And I got to tell you, buckle up because you ain't seen nothing yet. We have already surpassed everything we did last year, and we are only halfway through this year. Suddenly, we have good news coming out of bond agencies, which we've never seen before. Rating agencies, the Mayor have only, and Jim have only given us bad news in the past. We've got Fitch's saying we are rebounding faster than other states, and we have Moody's, and I didn't know they use these words, saying we're rebounding with gusto. I'm going to use that word a lot after they said it. And then we just see announcement after announcement after announcement, so many that are occurring right here in Louisville. We saw 1-point warranty solutions expand a $900,000 investment, 104 new jobs just recently. We saw an investment in Whitley County in the electric vehicle market, creating 250 new jobs in eastern Kentucky. But if we are on this precipice of prosperity, and I think we are, we got to make sure it reaches everybody. We got to make sure it reaches hard-working Kentuckians that have worked every single day and deserve a brighter future for them and their kids. We got to make sure it reaches every region of the state, including those that have felt left behind. And we got to make sure it reaches every part of every city in Kentucky, especially neighborhoods here in Louisville that haven't seen enough wealth generation and new jobs in far too long. But folks, these are the challenges that we would have prayed for 6 months ago. This is the opportunity they told us would not be coming back for 5+ years. And what we see here today is going to help us sprint into that future. I think what we see here today also shows you the importance in investing in infrastructure. And that's why today I want to make clear my support for a bipartisan deal on infrastructure spending in Washington, D.C. I'm excited about it. This would put $579 billion into direct transportation projects. That's roads, bridges, major projects, and Secretary Gray could tell you there's a couple bridges that we could really use some help with. It also goes is $7.5 billion into electric vehicle infrastructure, $7.5 billion in electric buses and transit. Opportunity for us to do even more. This is the type of spending that we have needed, and in a state like Kentucky that we're blessed to have a whole lot of interstate and infrastructure, but a tax base that sometimes struggle to keep up with it. This is our chance to move ahead and to continue our future. So my hope in what they can do in Washington, D.C. is what we've done here in Kentucky dealing with the pandemic. Push the politics aside, realize that fighting COVID isn't red or blue or Democrat or Republican, it's just a matter of life and death. And if we can take that same type of approach when it deals with our roads, again, nothing red or blue about them, then I think that we can have a bright future for our infrastructure needs ahead of us. I want to thank everybody who had a part of what we're doing here today. I want to make sure I thank all the TARC employees. Yeah. We talk about heroes in the midst of this pandemic. They know, you know, you're heroes. I mean, I just think about the fact that I had to stand up and talk about how dangerous it was out there. Yet you went out every single day, exposed to other people, potentially bringing that back to your own family, putting more than just your own health on the line, but knowing that people needed you and stepping up to answer that call. I want you to know how appreciated you are, and I also want you to know you're superheroes. I mean that, because what do? They save lives. And what you all have done in this pandemic, the choices that you have made has saved countless lives here in the Louisville area. So thank you to the TARC employees. Yeah. I gotcha. We're working on it. And I think that we have a plug-in for an essential worker bonus, and let me tell you what, I'm going to support that at the next General Assembly for you and every other essential worker. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Governor Beshear. Next, I would like to introduce a great supporter of TARC and a great supporter of transit in Kentucky, Kentucky Secretary of Transportation, Jim Gray.
Carrie, thank you. And I was going to say that you could have shorthanded that introduction even more by just saying, this is Jim Gray, and he is proud to work for Andy Beshear. Thank you, Carrie. And Governor, I'm going to come back to you, but first I want to acknowledge and thank Greg Fisher for being a friend as a mayor for a long time. When I was in that job, it was great to work with Louisville and with Greg Fisher. And in fact, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to tell a little story, and it has you in it, and it involves Carrie Butler here, the TARC Executive Director. It was about 2 years ago, and I got a call from Greg, and I always pick it up like I do when the governor calls. It was Greg Fisher, Mayor Greg Fisher, on my cell phone. And I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor." And he said, "Jim, I want to ask you about someone who worked in Lexington, worked for you not long ago." And I said, "Well, who is that, Mayor?" And he said, well, it's Carrie Butler, and she was your executive director for Lextran. And I said, you're asking for a reference? Yes. Well, I cannot give you a reference for Carrie. We do not want her to leave Lexington. Well, she did, and Lexington's loss was Louisville's gain. She is really was so effective in Lexington. And I know that's been the same experience, of course, in Louisville. I, too, like the governor, I wanted to say first things first, let's give it up for the employees. Let's do that one more time. You know, I learned in the private sector, in a family business, that we all stand on the shoulders. We all stand on the shoulders of our employees, and so we appreciate you all enormously. I also want to acknowledge and recognize Representative Ken Upchurch. I've got only one boss, and that's the governor, but I do have others in the legislature to whom I am often accountable, and that includes Representative Ken Upchurch, who is the chairman of the House Transportation Committee. That means that he gets our attention. So you all please join me in recognizing Representative Upchurch. And he has come, as you know, Governor, he has come all the way from Monticello, Kentucky. I think he said to me, I've come all the way from the southern border of Kentucky to the northern border of Kentucky today, all the way from Monticello. That's about a 2.5-hour drive. So, Ken, thanks for joining us today. Okay, and I get to do one more thing before I talk quickly about TARC and about the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's involvement with TARC and this project specifically. The governor is all about leadership. This governor is all about leadership. Now, a lot of people say that he's matured and he's gotten his real solid grounding in the last few months as governor. And I will tell you that this guy has been a leader for a long time, even at the young, only at 4 decades and counting. He was a leader when he was Attorney General. He was a leader when he brought the action that allowed for the Volkswagen settlement, that allowed for us being here today and others all across our state. That's what leadership was about when he was Attorney General. And I can tell you, having been involved in not just transportation, but a couple of other projects, like fixing the Brent Spence Bridge when there was a big fire on it, and like the vaccine project, I can tell you that he keeps us accountable. He holds us accountable. Every week, twice a week during the vaccine, we would have a stand-up call where the governor was asking us, what's going on? Where are we? Are we improving today more than we did yesterday? Are we doing more today than we did yesterday? And that was routine, twice a week. And I will tell you all, I thought I had learned a lot about the vaccine and about the distribution of the vaccine. Well, he knew a lot more than I did every time. So it was keeping us on our toes the whole time. And Governor, I just want to say, I don't get the opportunity often to thank you. I wanted to do that today. Thank you for your leadership. And now, yes, I was going to say that is an applause line. So we know that today we have 15 of 47 new clean diesel buses purchased from the proceeds of the Volkswagen mitigation settlement. As I said, thanks to then Attorney General and now Governor Andy Beshear. And these 15 new buses will roll out of TARC's hub for the first time to begin service and pick up their first passengers. Before COVID, I'm told that 80% of TARC's passengers, 80% were either going to work or going to school. And that tells you just how important public transportation is. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is proud to have its involvement in this through our Office of Transportation Delivery. And that office was instrumental in helping TARC secure funding for these buses. So I want to say, Carrie, to you and to all of your staff, and Mayor, to you and your staff and all of Louisville, that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, as a cabinet of Governor Andy Beshear, is so proud to work together with TARC every single day. Thank you all very much.
Having transportation is very important to getting to and from work, to and from doctor's appointments and visits, getting to school to get an education. And so we're very excited about these buses and what they mean to not only Louisville but the rest of Kentucky, and excited about the future of transportation. I know the governor spoke a minute ago about the electric vehicles and new green energy. I think transportation and the technology that is coming is one of the most exciting things that, as chairman of the House Transportation Committee, that I get to see. And so we're excited about the future. We're excited about what we may be doing in the next General Assembly as far as transportation and how it will affect all of Kentuckians. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. Congratulations, Carrie, on your new purchases, and hopefully everything will get back to normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. And our last speaker, while last, was really one of the first people to get on board with this effort and really help to get the ball rolling for us. So to make this all possible, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher.
Thank you, Carrie, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. This has been an announcement that's been eagerly anticipated for quite some time, and to actually see these buses here getting ready to roll is a wonderful thing for our community. I, too, want to thank the team that has made this happen here, and it takes a team to make anything good happen. So, Representative Upchurch, thanks to you and the whole General Assembly. Mayor Gray, still like to call you the mayor. We had a great partnership for 8 years and really helped bring Louisville and Lexington closer together than ever before. And, of course, Governor, you played a major role in this and many other efforts. So nice job to you, and Carrie, of course, you and the entire team and everybody at TARC. So it's a good way to keep moving out of what's been a challenging year. We talked about this. We were dealing with multiple crises all at one time. We had a global pandemic going on. We had an economic recession going on. We had demonstrations for long overdue social justice taking place at the same time. And I don't know anybody that had any of those in their life plan or their business plan before they all started. But we adjusted, and we're doing a really nice job coming out of these challenges even stronger as a city. And the reality is these challenges hit everybody, every person, every business, every school, church, public agency, but they hit transportation agencies like TARC especially hard, because whatever the circumstances, people still needed to get to work, they needed to get to the doctor, the pharmacy, the grocery, everywhere. And so a lot of challenges at TARC to deal with this. About 10% of Jefferson County households lack access to cars. And before COVID hit, research indicated about 80% of TARC riders were going to and from school or work. For many people in Louisville, these TARC buses simply are a lifeline, and they make it possible for them to conduct their lives each and every day. And so that means TARC is essential, an essential service to our efforts to become a city of even greater equity. With all that in mind, I want to offer a special thanks to Governor Andy Beshear for his around-the-clock efforts to lead our state out of the pandemic and get our residents vaccinated so we could get back to doing all of the things that we love post-COVID. And there were a lot of ways that governors approached the pandemic, from pretty hands-off to micromanaging. I think, Governor, what you did was the perfect balance for our state and for our cities, and it shows in the data how we're coming back. In Louisville now, we've got about 70% of our eligible population vaccinated. You know, we wouldn't have imagined an event like this just a couple months ago. So, Governor, you really did a great job on that. Really appreciate it. So, TARC, in the meantime, did a great job too, because you all had to adapt really quickly to these changing conditions. You had to develop plans to accommodate social distancing, mask wearing, the need to clean and disinfect buses, to keep passengers and drivers safe. And you all excelled at those, meeting national and global challenges. It took a lot of entrepreneurship and flexibility to doing that. And you had to do that with passengers coming on the buses, sometimes that were not so happy to see some of these new restrictions that were in place. But you did it for one reason. You did it to keep them safe. And that's why we got through this as a city. So now as we start to reopen our economy, TARC is continuing the fight against COVID, and most recently through offering fare free service last Friday in the support of President Biden's We Can Do This effort to move us closer to a 70% vaccination rate. So I just really appreciate TARC stepping up each and every time. Now this Volkswagen settlement is one piece of good news. That's on top of the larger federal dollars TARC was able to secure. Thanks to those funds, we will allow TARC to do the important work for the Louisville region each day now in a more clean and a more fuel-efficient way. The new buses, and they're about 20% of our fleet or so this is quite a material announcement in addition to the fleet. The passengers who ride, but also for the entire health of our community, are getting a big bump here. A lot of the older models, we see them around, they're a little dirty, let's face that. But we're going to replace those, so they're going to help us reduce the amount of air pollution in our city and improve, obviously, the air quality of the air we all breathe, tying right in with our sustainability goals and our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals for the region. So super important. So again, it takes a hard-working team to do this. I want to thank the ATU, Lillian Brents, I want to thank you as well. It is tough being an operator of a bus. You're expected, obviously, to get people on time, but you're a tour driver for some people. You're an ambassador to the city. Sometimes you got to calm things down. It is hard being an operator of a bus. So I want to particularly give a shout out to them, our mechanics, our planners, the entire team, Carrie Butler, our board of directors here. Thanks for keeping us rolling here as a city. So great job, everybody. One last thing I want to make a plug for, and Gov suggested that. You know, we're going through a real transition time as a country right now where we're facing a lot of opportunities to invest in ourselves. Coming out of Washington, D.C., we have really underinvested as a country for a long period of time. When you look at the state of infrastructure in America, we barely are in the top 20 now in terms of quality compared to the rest of the world. I don't know any American that stands up and says, we want to be number 19 in infrastructure. We want to be the best. We certainly think we're the best. And to do that, you have to invest in yourself, just like any good business invests in itself. So when you're hearing about the American Rescue Plan, that's an investment in us as people. And I think investing in America and investing in Kentucky and investing in Louisville is a damn good bet. It's a good investment. So when you hear about the American Jobs Plan, or when you hear about the infrastructure plan, some people say, well, it's too much money. I'd say, I think you're worth it. Any investment, the cost of this money is low these days. 3%, let's just say, is an interest rate. Well, if we can't give a better than a 3% return on an investment, then we ought to pack it up and go home. But I know we are much more valuable than that. So when you hear about these investments and what they can do, please support them. And please think about how they expand our economy as well. And understand that as a nation, we are losing competitiveness. China is out investing us each and every day right now. And they love to see our dysfunction as a country. The dysfunction really is in Washington, D.C. Because around America, when you ask Americans, should we invest in our infrastructure? 70 to 75% of Americans say, yes, we should. It's only in Washington, D.C. where it gets bogged down. So we got to encourage our representatives in Washington, D.C. to do the right thing, invest in our country, invest in our infrastructure, and advance our national competitiveness. It's a good win for everybody. So today's announcement is a small part of that. We can do much more, and I look forward to those days. And again, to the entire TARC team, Gov, entire state government, great job.